what is your like end goal? You know how you usually typically will bring on a lot of like OnlyFans girls and stuff, and yeah, from clips that I've seen, anyways, I see that there's a lot of OnlyFans girls or girls that are like very pro liberation, and I feel like you guys are very harsh in the way that you debate with them to try and alter their opinions on things. I just am curious as to why you go about such a harsh way of doing it. Do you think that that actually changes their minds or their perspectives in any ways? Or do you just kind of want to do it for the sake of debating and not actually try and change mentalities?
Right. So let me address your first criticism is
Personally, I feel like Brian does what he does to try to get people to understand the shit they're doing. I don't feel like he's doing it just to be an asshole. I feel like he was doing it just to be an asshole. He would sit there and just bash him all day. He bash him all day. But he really don't bash him. He more so tried to explain, like, do you not know what you're doing? Like, do you understand what you're doing causes this and causes that? So it's like he's trying to explain what the fuck going on. So I don't think he's just doing it for just be an asshole.
we bring on a lot of OnlyFans girls. Allow me to debunk that immediately. How many OnlyFans girls do we have on this panel?
None. I didn't say a criticism. I said a question. So I'm not criticizing it. It's just a genuine curiosity.
People have this. We've had OnlyFans girls on the show. We've had.
He defensive.
I mean, over the course of.
Right now, he's being defensive.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Is that good?
All right, awesome.
Okay, so I've actually had somebody, because this is a criticism we get frequently, that we just bring on sex workers and OnlyFans girls and we bring them on to dunk on them. Maybe that last part's true. But the important part to be accurate about is this idea that we only bring on girls, and actually doing an analysis of all the guests. And I had somebody painstakingly go through every single episode and listen to, we're getting data collected, age, occupations, etc. I believe it's less than 20% of the panelists are involved in OF or some kind of sex work. Granted, we have had sex workers and OnlyFans girls on the show, but this idea that we overwhelmingly, or that we're somehow an OF ad agency, is just ridiculous if you actually spend any time watching the show or doing any research.
Hell nah, they're not like an OnlyFans ad thing. It's more so like, bro, like, the girls get on there, the girls kind of promote themselves. The girls tell them what they do. The guys give their opinion about it. And pretty much all it is. It's like, bro, like, Andrew and Brian tell them how they feel about their job, about the girl job. The girl tells them how they feel about their podcast. They explain their sides on why they do what they do and why they think they should do it, or what's wrong, what's right. They debate because they're debating podcast. Then they get the fuck off the show. He don't get on there and say, "Hey guys, you should subscribe to this girl's OnlyFans. Hey guys, we should all be sex workers." He don't not promoting that, but it's just the fact that the hottest topic right now is sex. It's the number one topic. Like, literally, is especially in the United States, is the number one topic. Literally everything revolves around sex. So the number one topic is sex. And OnlyFans and sex workers are right now the main topic. What the fuck do you expect going to happen? What the fuck y'all think going to happen, bro?
Well, I can also give a counter here that Brian definitely holds different views than I do, most assuredly. And I've actually not seen him be particularly harsh towards women based on history or occupation, almost ever. That's usually me.
Yeah, that's Andrew.
I think he gets a lot.
That's for damn sure Andrew. Andrew the asshole. Andrew the blunt, straightforward asshole. Like, he can tell you how he feels, and I fully respect that shit. Like, I respect the fuck out that, because he keep even though he knows he's an asshole, and that's why I respect it. He knows he's one, but he keeping it 100 with you. He keeping it in a band. So long as he keeping it real with you, that's all that matters. Brian more like the understanding version of it. Like, he kind of sugarcoat shit. Like, he gonna tell you how he feels, but he's not gonna be more direct. He's not gonna be super direct like Andrew will. Brian will care more about your feelings. And he try to be more softer about it, which is okay. You kind of need both, low key. You need somebody who direct and like, nah, bro, this is what it is. Then you need somebody who kind of like softer, like, hey, let me explain to you a different way. Like it's okay to have both.
A lot of
For sure,
classic
it's okay.
criticisms
Like, it's
from
okay.
my views, even though they're not actually his views.
Yeah,
So I think that
interesting.
that's a fair
Interesting.
it's a fair criticism to make. For me, I'm definitely hard on him, and I have great justifications for why. But I've never actually seen really Brian be very harsh with any woman in those regards, unless they've
I
been
haven't
super
seen it.
disrespectful on the show. But
Yeah.
for the most
Yeah.
part, just no
Other than that, I haven't
understatement.
seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I mean, just to be fair, yes, I've gotten into heated exchanges with
Oh, for sure.
women who have come on the show. Sometimes they happen to do OnlyFans. I guess I would have to ask you to be specific and point to a specific interaction or specific thing that I've said, which you deem to be harsh, which
Well,
may very well exist, but I'd have to hear
So,
what it is.
yeah, that's a great one. I think not specifically you. I think the culture generalizing of this show from the viral clips, it does show that. And so it's probably the ones that are the most viral that show people being quite harsh to a guest. That's why it was just more so the curiosity of if you guys, when these specific people are on the show, do tend to debate more with them in a harsher way. Is there a specific
Ooh.
intent
Yeah,
behind it?
there's kind of a bad straw man smuggled in there. So I'm a guest just like you are. I'm just
Yeah.
remoted in, right? But I'm often in the room myself. Most of the viral clips from the whatever podcast are guests themselves arguing. So when you
Yeah.
say you guys, but you didn't make the differentiation, but we're the guest and you guys are arguing with the guest, that's incorrect. Most of the viral clips are guests themselves arguing. So who is you guys here?
That's a good point.
Oh yeah, that's a great
that's
point.
true.
All right,
That is
not to
true.
generalize then,
That's
just
very
saying
true.
that not to generalize as in pairing in you guys. More so from my observation of the podcast, that's what I've seen, and it was just a genuine.
I don't think Brian is sassy. I just think Brian I just think Brian more of like a calmer guy. Like I don't think he's sassy at all. If you read the comment, let me go back to it. Like her, like Lana or Lena, how you ever pronounce that? In my opinion, Brian is sassy, not harsh. Just because Brian is softer doesn't mean he's sassy. He's just not with all the tension and shit. Like he just don't want to. Like, that don't mean he's sassy. That shit weird.
More so from my observation of the podcast, that's what I've seen, and it was just a genuine, as I said, not a I don't agree. You just said, is there any questions? It was just a curiosity question. As do you think that do you have an intent with why you do that, or is it just because you enjoy communicating that way?
The why you so there's the straw man again, right? There is no you guys are doing X. There's viral clips that go of guests who are arguing, right? But wouldn't that be on the guests themselves?
Yeah, so I'm not specifically putting anyone down. As I said, just to emphasize it, it's just a curiosity question as to why you think that happens. Do you think it's beneficial? Do you think that it changes anything? Because it is a dating podcast. Do you think that there's any type of positive ripple effects from what you do?
Yeah, I
Not
think
you do from the podcast.
there's widespread disagreement on the way that people interpersonally connect with each other. And I think that arguments are part of the distinction in interpersonal connection. So when you talk about dating, this is a really broad scope. For example, there's men who've been on this podcast who say they won't date a Democrat. There's been Democrat women on the podcast say they won't debate a Republican or date a Republican. Well, obviously, that's going to inspire some back and forth where people disagree with each other because it's such a wide scale. When it comes to dating, preferences are so widely based that you're going to have arguments and you're going to have them often, just like you do with people you're actually dating, right? That's interpersonal relationships. Interpersonal relationships of any kind or interpersonal communication of any kind is going to necessarily lead to argumentation.
So would you say like this space is just more you guys are holding the space to be able to have these arguments, not necessarily that you guys are advocating for one or the other?
Well, it's a forum. So what happens is you have people who have sometimes adversarial views, sometimes not adversarial views. Maybe they have minute disagreements. So there's many men like Mason. He's one who comes on the podcast quite often. He has a nuanced approach to the way that he looks at different things. Those arguments are more nuanced, but he has a completely different idea about dating than I would or Brian would or you guys would. But these guests, as they interconnect, there's no time I can ever think of where you get 8 people in a room and they're going to agree about dating.
No.
That
Oh, for
just
sure.
that just seems
And
kind
that
of
never
absurd
happens.
to me.
No, that never
I don't
happens.
think you'd ever find it anywhere. So if you bring, kind of 8 or 10 random people in a room, or even 6, and you start asking them these questions, I think that, yeah, it's going to inspire conversation back and forth, which can end up in adversarial debates.
Yeah.
Also, hold on. Just to add on to this, so while the Whatever podcast does distribute and publish and create clips of our own, there's also viral clips that do not originate from us too.
Yeah.
Now, these clips are of the Whatever podcast, but it is worth at least pointing out and adding on to what Andrew said, is that not all the clips, a lot of these viral clips are third parties that just, even without our permission, I don't really care, but they will make clips from the podcast and distribute them. So in terms of like, if there's a criticism as to the selection of these specific clips, not all of the clips originate from our production end. So, but I think Andrew made some fantastic points there. Again, though, I would have to hear like a specific like clip that you saw, and I'll even grant that, yeah, there's been moments where I've been, I think the word you used was judgmental or harsh. Although I would say the good majority of the time, this is in response to somebody being either delusional, or they're being rude first, or they're being unreasonable first, or they're attacking me first.
Yeah.
I typically have a rule that I won't attack somebody unless they attack me first. Although granted, I mean, there's hundreds and hundreds of hours of the show. You can't be 100% perfect all the time, but you'd have to point to a specific clip for me to actually be able to address your criticism.
Well, to be honest with you, Andrew's answered the curiosity question perfectly. That was more, was there any specific intent behind any of it? And the fact that, as you were saying, it's more so like an open forum, just answered for me from my general knowledge of this podcast. I guess more so what the motive is, for lack of a better term. So it kind of answered my question.